together, and we'll have some questions for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Secretary, Representative Vitale mentioned quite accurately that the support, and I think you had it in your comments too, that the DEP from fiscal year 08 was at a budget of about 220. This current year, it's at about 143, and that's a decline. What perhaps would be helpful for people to understand is that the entirety of that decline was implemented under Governor Rendell by your mentor and sponsor, the recently departed John Hanger, when he was Secretary of DEP. So it causes me to wonder. We've heard you last year and again this year with the same theme, that you don't have enough money, you don't have enough staff. But when I look at what the governor asked for, when I look what the prior governors have done, why is it that you can't seem to convince John Hanger and Governor Wolf that you need more money and more staff, but you ask us to accept it?
Well, first, I would say that the DEP has experienced cuts over the last decade, and that includes the Corbett administration very significantly.
Excuse me, there were no furloughs under the Corbett administration in DEP. The furloughs happened under John Hanger and Governor Rendell, and I think this past month under you.
That's not correct. There haven't been any furloughs in the Wolf administration.
The radiation people aren't gone?
There have been no furloughs in DEP since I'm in the chair. Nobody's gone anywhere. There have been nobody's gone anywhere. There have been no furloughs. There have, however, been continued hemorrhaging of positions in the agency. And during the Corbett administration, that hemorrhaging continued. So the agency is down staff over successive gubernatorial administrations.
The week before this year's budget, the governor's office, or rather you, announced a decline of about 200 positions at DEP.
No, and
apparently there was a spreadsheet that was presented by your Office of Administration in your department that reviewed where these cuts were coming from. Would you be kind enough to provide that spreadsheet to the committee?
Certainly. But you need to understand, Representative, this was a complement ceiling that was imposed. There were a number of vacancies that were initially withheld. In other words, we couldn't fill all of the vacancies that we had on staff. We are currently...
And why is that? You have more budget
Point of order,
than last
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
If I might answer the question.
Point of order. I've listened to the chairman again and again interrupt the secretary. He asked the question, and when the secretary tried to answer, he keeps interrupting. I would simply ask that you direct the chairman of the Environmental Committee to let the secretary fully answer the question before he interrupts.
Point of personal privilege, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I was going to make that same request, Chairman. So, Chairman Maher, you have good questions. I think we need to let the secretary answer, and you can disagree or agree, and then we can go on. Thank you.
Okay. If the gentleman will agree that, first of all, you know, it's Chairman Markozik and I. We choose to have the standing chairs come to the Appropriations Committee. Okay. Because of the knowledge of the policies and the issues. So let's try to maintain some back and forth, okay? Time is relevant here, okay? So if the answers could be shortened, and if the chairman would be so kind to allow the secretary to finish a sentence, but let's not prolong the answers, okay? I'm trying to keep the questions moving and the hearings moving as well. So I think the other members, you know, would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. If I could attempt to answer the last question. We are working right now with the Budget Office to create some space within that complement ceiling because only 22% of DEP's budget is funded by the general fund. Another 28% comes from federal funds, and the other 50% comes from fees, as well as a little bit of fines and penalties. So there are a number of positions that were initially placed under that complement ceiling that do not impact the general fund. And we're going back and forth now developing the business case. And with respect to supporting the agency, in his first budget proposal, the governor proposed about a 6% general fund budget increase for DEP, and in his current proposal, another 4.88%. So the governor is doing everything he can within the context of a $2 billion structural deficit to at least keep DEP whole and create a platform from which we can grow and improve and restore the services that we've lost over the last decade.
So do you think the amount the governor has proposed is enough?
I think it is enough given what else he has to face, yes.
Thank you. And with respect to these positions which are funded by permit fees, such as with the 24 drilling oversight positions, that you and the governor are choosing to leave vacant, even though they're funded by permits, why would you come to us and say you don't have enough people to oversee drilling when you choose not to use the permit fees that are provided to fill those positions?
Well, if you remember my conversation with Representative Pyle, the number of permits and therefore the permit income coming into the agency is down 33%. It is way under projections. So as a matter of fact, we cannot fill all of these positions because revenue is down.
And maybe your permit applications are down because you're not processing permits. And part of that you talked about, that you've got 500 permit backlogs or such, and you've got 4 people on the desk. I would suggest that management entails establishing priorities. And if you cannot handle getting through your backlog of permits when you've got, what, 2,400 people, and you can't find another 1 or 2 to deal with these permits, I don't understand that.
Well,
I think the time has come to stop complaining about your headcount and start owning it. You are very much shaping the headcount of this agency. Yet you come and you say you can't process your permits, you don't have enough people. I'd say that's a failure in management, and I would urge you to find a solution, because the world depends on your paperwork, and it winds up being a dead stop. Some of this is economic development, some of it's environmental remediation, and it comes to a dead stop in your office.